Hello and welcome. Live from New Delhi, you're watching DD India News Hour, India's voice to the world. The festive spirit still lingers in Delhi's air, so a very happy Diwali from all of us. I'm Gautam Roy, and coming up in the next hour, India's Commerce Minister to attend two key trade-related meetings of the IPEF and the APEC, also to interact with eminent business persons and prominent academics. India's Foreign Minister Dr. Jaishankar calls on British Prime Minister Rishi Sunak in London, conveys Prime Minister Narendra Modi's Diwali greetings. Sri Lankan President presents the island nation's annual budget, says Colombo's economy successfully regained momentum last year. And rescue work is on at full swing to extract 40 workers trapped in a partially collapsed under-construction tunnel on the Yamunotri National Highway. First up, India's Commerce and Industry Minister Piyush Goyal is attending the APEC Economic Leaders Summit in San Francisco. India has been invited to the 30th APEC Economic Leaders meeting as a guest economy. Piyush Goyal will also attend the ministerial meeting of the Indo-Pacific Economic Framework for Prosperity, that's the IPEF, in San Francisco. Now, during his 4-day visit to the US, Piyush Goyal will interact with industry leaders, prominent academics and the US officials to further strengthen economic and commercial ties between the two nations. Piyush Goyal will also hold bilateral meetings with US Commerce Secretary Gina Raimondo, US Trade Representative Catherine Tai and ministers of other IPEF partner countries on the sidelines of the IPEF ministerial meeting. These meetings will focus on addressing trade barriers, promoting investment and greater cooperation in areas such as technology and innovation. And the stage is also set in San Francisco for the biggest international event the city has hosted since 1945. Leaders from across the Asia-Pacific are flying in for the APEC summit that President Joe Biden will host this week. DD India's Simon Marks is at the summit site in Frisco.
India's Commerce Minister Piyush Goyal will represent Prime Minister Narendra Modi at this year's APEC summit here in San Francisco, the first APEC summit to be held on American soil since 2011. The agenda is absolutely vast, and over the course of the last few hours here in San Francisco, fresh pressure has been applied on both President Biden, the host of the summit, and Chinese President Xi Jinping ahead of their meeting face-to-face on the sidelines of this event on Wednesday. It took fully a year for Washington and Beijing to negotiate even the possibility of a face-to-face meeting between the two men. So tense has the bilateral relationship between Washington and Beijing been, especially in the months since the United States shot down that Chinese surveillance balloon flying in American airspace. On Wednesday, it comes at a time, of course, when President Biden will be traveling to this APEC summit to reinforce the notion that the United States sees itself as a Pacific power and is absolutely determined to deepen its partnership with its partners across the Indo-Pacific in a bid to try and counter China's expansionist tendencies. Other issues where there may be difficulties making headway include the crisis underway in the Gaza Strip. There is disagreement among many of the countries attending this APEC summit over precisely who is to blame for the intensifying crisis in the Middle East. Many of APEC's 21 member states want the United States to liberalize its approach to trade, to allow market access, even perhaps to agree to begin the negotiation of free trade agreements. The Biden administration does not appear to be coming to this summit with that kind of an approach in mind. 78 years ago, has San Francisco seen an international gathering like this. The city has cleaned up in the immediate vicinity around the Moscone Center where this summit is being held. Big stakes here, a big event. and of course enormous outcomes banking on it that will come out of this conference for nations throughout the Indo-Pacific. Simon Marks for DD India at the APEC summit in San Francisco.
And for more on Union Minister Piyush Goyal's US visit, which is all about the IPEF and the APEC and some other key meetings as well, we're joined by my colleague Ajay Mishra. Ajay, happy Diwali to you. India and US already have extensive business ties, but both the IPEF and APEC meets have a much wider ambit involving other key economies as well. Now, what are the minister's main objectives during his Frisco visit?
So happy Diwali to you, Gautam, as well. I think there are just to understand and put the things in perspective, there are 4 pillars under this Indo-Pacific economic framework, so to say. The first pillar is about the trade, second is on supply chain, third is on clean energy, and fourth is on fair economy. And it is up to the members of the Indo-Pacific to join any of the pillars. So to say, India has decided not to join the trade pillar because it has some constraints and conditions involving that you cannot impress upon the companies to go for the localization, and you cannot tax the data economy and all. So that's why this is the reason why we have opted to enter the negotiations on 3 pillars. So just to understand, we have concluded the negotiations on the pillar of supply chain, which means that all the 14 countries of Indo-Pacific economic framework have agreed to create a resilient supply chain, and negotiations are over there. We understand that during this very important third in-person Indo-Pacific meet, the other 2 pillars on clean energy and fair economy, these 2 pillars will also be, the negotiations are completed, and we understand that there will be a broader agreement on these 2 additional pillars as far as the India's point of action is concerned. So it's very important to understand to counter China. The US wants to press the economies, the major economies in Indo-Pacific regions, and wants to align with India in order to counter China and to create a resilient supply chain in Indo-Pacific, and that's what we have already achieved under Indo-Pacific economic framework. It's very important from Indian point of view. As far as APEC is concerned, I believe that the focus will be more on the Biden and Xi's meeting. That is a side event, as our correspondent just pointed out. India is just a guest nation, and will try to be just an observer to see what's happening around the negotiations, and obviously India would try to push its domestic interests on both these very important trade meetings during this very important visit of Trade Minister Piyush Goyal.
All right. And what can you tell us about the minister's other engagements during his visit and their potential impact on India's foreign trade and investment? Because India perhaps has been pursuing those ends even with the US in a bilateral manner more than relying on these multilateral sort of setups.
So I think India have a very clear strategy that we will have a bilateral negotiation with the economies where it suits to India when it comes to localization, when it comes to focus on
investments as well.
Yeah, absolutely. I think investment, investment is very important, and I think India would try to attract more and more investment from wherever possible. And we have seen that we have concluded a successful negotiation with the UAE, with Australia, and it has been a terrific trade after these FTAs. So we are going bilateral. That is true for sure. But we understand that India is also playing a very important role on multilateral fora, be it G7 as an observer country, as a guest country, in the G20 as an active president, and also the co-president in the next G20 meeting. IPEF and APEC are also very important frameworks for India. We are discussing issues like security and economic prosperity under Quad. In the India-US 2+2 meeting, we have also discussed the defense and securities, the matters along with the US, and we understand that both bilateral as well as the multilateral forum is being by the India to put its point forward with the global community, looking at the interest of the domestic economy.
And Ajay, very quickly, there's a lot of buzz about Piyush Goyal also meeting Elon Musk in the context of Tesla. What can you tell us? Is there going to be some sort of an announcement?
Yeah, I think the Reuters reported that he's going to meet the Tesla chairman, and we understand there are not just this meeting. There will be many more tech players. There will be many more players in the education sector and financial technology players. There will be a meeting with the industry in the Silicon Valley, and we believe that there might be some big announcement as far as some the big investments is concerned into different sectors, including deep technology, financial technology, and who knows, the Tesla is going to come in India.
All right. Well, yes, it's a big occasion where India's integration into global supply chains and even securing funds for cleaning up our rivers and oceans and even the air are concerned. Let's hope that it's a successful one for Minister Piyush Goyal. Thanks a lot for joining us, Ajay. Now, U.S. Treasury Secretary Janet Yellen has met with financial chiefs from Indonesia, Mexico and Australia ahead of the Asia-Pacific Economic Cooperation, that's the APEC leaders meeting in San Francisco. She's emphasized a wish for continuous international cooperation. The APEC meeting will take place from the 15th of November, that's Wednesday, to the 17th, and it's scheduled to include a meeting between U.S. President Joe Biden and Chinese President Xi Jinping.
This is a particularly exciting time for bilateral relations between the United States and Indonesia, as the timing of our ministerial coincides with President Jokowi's visit to Washington, marking a new phase of bilateral cooperation and friendship between the world's second and third largest democracies. We continue to strengthen bilateral relations between our nations. This meeting follows a very successful state visit by Prime Minister Albanese last month, in which he and President Biden helped inaugurate a new era of U.S.-Australia strategic cooperation.
India's Foreign Minister Dr. S. Jaishankar has said that India is the fastest growing large economy today, noting that there is leadership, vision and good governance. Dr. Jaishankar made these remarks during an interaction with the Indian community in London. The minister also praised the contributions of the community in raising India's profile around the world. The minister, who is on a 5-day visit to the UK, celebrated Diwali by offering prayers at the Babs Sri Swaminarayan Mandir in London on Sunday.
So, I want to assure you, things are going very well at home. You can see that in the manner in which we had a very, very successful G20 presidency in very difficult circumstances. The world did not believe that we could get everybody together. And it took a Prime Minister like Narendra Modi to do that. Similarly, we have come through a very difficult period that the entire world has on COVID. But India is today the fastest growing large economy, and there is a very good reason. It is growing because today there is leadership, there is vision, there is good governance.
And during his visit to the UK, Dr. Jaishankar also met Prime Minister Rishi Sunak in London and conveyed his best wishes of Prime Minister Narendra Modi on Diwali. Dr. Jaishankar is in the UK, as I said, on an official trip to review various aspects of bilateral ties and to hold meetings with his counterpart, UK Foreign Secretary James Cleverly, and several other dignitaries. And for more on the External Affairs Minister's UK visit, I'm joined by DD India's Ollie Barrett from London. Well, it's a day later, Ollie, but the Diwali spirit seems to persist the world over. So first of all, happy Diwali. What more can you tell us about Dr. Jaishankar's 5-day visit, which, as a statement said, is aimed at giving new impetus to friendly ties?
Happy Diwali, Gautam, to you as well. Yes, and that Diwali spirit was marked at Downing Street, as you say, with the meeting between the External Affairs Minister and the UK Prime Minister Rishi Sunak. There's also been that interaction with members of the Indian diaspora at a temple in northwest London too. As ever, the meetings with the diaspora, a key part of this visit by the External Affairs Minister. We know as well that there will be a meeting with the Foreign Secretary, James Cleverly. There is clearly a lot to discuss when it comes to international affairs at the moment, given the crisis in the Middle East, among other issues that those two will want to discuss in their meeting. Also worth saying that the Indian side and the British side continue to discuss progress towards a free trade deal. Certainly the Downing Street position at the moment when it comes to negotiations on that trade deal are that good progress is being made, that discussions and negotiations continue, but clearly no resolution, no conclusion has been found yet. So you would expect that that trade deal will be very much on the agenda during the visit of the External Affairs Minister. As I say, lots going on in the world at the moment, not least the crisis in the Middle East, and you would expect that that will be very high up the agenda when James Cleverly, the UK Foreign Secretary, meets with Mr. Jaishankar, the External Affairs Minister here in London.
Well, certainly, and that we will talk about further as well. But right now, I believe there's some breaking news that's come in, something that is related to the United Kingdom's domestic affairs, with the update that UK's Home Minister Suella Braverman has been sacked. What more can you tell us about it? There's been of late a lot of upheaval in the Conservative camp, in the Tories' camp, and this seems to be another one.
Yeah, furious speculation in recent days, Gautam, about the future of the UK Home Secretary, the Interior Minister, Suella Braverman, and we now know that she has been sacked by UK Prime Minister Rishi Sunak. He is carrying out a cabinet reshuffle that is underway as we speak. So we wait to hear who is going to replace Suella Braverman as Home Secretary. But her position had been under huge scrutiny in recent days after a number of controversies, but one particularly related to the policing of pro-Palestinian marches in London at the weekend. She had an argument with the police about exactly how that should be handled. There was also a large controversy about some of the language that Suella Braverman, the Home Secretary, used to describe the marches happening at the weekend, but also the way she talked about the policing operation and appeared to call into question the operational independence of London Police. And that led to, as I say, renewed scrutiny on her position. And we understand that she has now been sacked by Rishi Sunak, the UK Prime Minister. So that means there is a vacancy at the Home Office, which will need to be filled. We expect that there will be several other movements in Cabinet today. Just going back to the visit of the External Affairs Minister Jaishankar, that may well mean actually that some of the meetings he has planned in London in the next few days take place with rather different personnel than he was expecting. We'll have to keep an eye on James Cleverly, the UK Foreign Secretary, to see whether he remains in post for that meeting with Dr. Jaishankar. But yes, Suella Braverman has been sacked by UK Prime Minister Rishi Sunak. Huge controversy around her position in recent days. She's been asked to leave the government, is how it's being described by Downing Street, and she has, we're told, accepted.
But why do you think it's happened in such an indelicate manner? It just seems that it's almost like a public display of how upset Rishi Sunak is with his Interior Minister, his Interior Secretary, because of how she had been conducting herself, not just in this phase because of the protests related to what's been happening in that region in the Middle East, but also earlier on the issue of refugees.
That's right. There have been a number of controversies surrounding Suella Braverman in recent weeks and months. A number of episodes in which language that she has used around topics like immigration, for example, around topics like homelessness, have been really disavowed by other members of her government. And a number of Conservative MPs had been saying for some time that perhaps it was time to move her on. But given the real intense controversy in recent days around policing, policing around the pro-Palestinian march that we saw at the weekend, I think Rishi Sunak has clearly come to the view that not sacking her would have made him look weak, given that she wrote an article, for example, last week in which the language that she used around policing and around the pro-Palestinian marches in the UK, that language was not signed off by Downing Street. We were told at the end of last week that Number 10 were looking into, were conducting an internal process into how exactly she'd managed to write an article for a national newspaper which contained language that wasn't signed off by her bosses at Downing Street. And so, given all of that scrutiny around her position, Rishi Sunak has clearly decided that actually, in terms of his leadership, he needed to fire Suella Braverman to look like he still has authority at the top of his party. We have been expecting a cabinet reshuffle for some time ahead of the next UK general election. We just didn't know when it would take place, and clearly the controversy around Suella Braverman and around her comments that were made last week and that article that she wrote about the pro-Palestinian marches, that has accelerated that process towards this reshuffle. Rishi Sunak also is going to use it, one expects, to try and reset his government, to retool it ahead of what is going to be a general election campaign kicking off in the not too distant future.
Yes, and in terms of what could lie ahead for Suella Braverman, because I believe that she's still quite popular with a particular segment of the Tories and has been quite feisty in her role, so I believe that she might want to carry it forward.
Yeah, that's exactly right, Gautam. She is popular with certain segments of the Conservative Party who believe that actually some of the language that she uses that is sometimes criticised for being indelicate or controversial or divisive, some Conservative MPs believe she speaks for a large chunk of the electorate, of the population, and they will be upset that she has been fired at this point. The gamble for Rishi Sunak, the UK Prime Minister, is that you then put a powerful figure on the backbenches who could cause you trouble with a certain segment of your own party, who could be overtly critical of your administration from the backbenches in the weeks and months ahead. And that will be difficult potentially for him. But in terms of her future, one of the other elements to this is that it's been long speculated that she is trying to position herself for a possible leadership challenge to run the Conservative Party if the Conservatives lose the next election and if UK Prime Minister Rishi Sunak at that point were to leave the leadership of the Conservative Party or even face a leadership challenge. So that you have to factor into all of this as well. Some of her public comments recently have also been very much interpreted in that frame as well, in that context, in that perspective. This idea that Suella Braverman has really been positioning herself for a run at the leadership if and when a vacancy arises.
Mm-hmm. And in terms of how things are shaping up and what may come in the coming days, would the Rwanda case, which is supposed to come up in court on Wednesday, related to how the British government wants to deport people who are seeking asylum, really, and are refugees in all manners that you can really describe that term, could that also have a bearing on how Rishi Sunak's government shapes up leading to that election?
Very much so. Rishi Sunak will want to have a Home Secretary in place who can deal with whatever comes out of that Supreme Court decision on migration policy later this week. If the Supreme Court decides that the UK cannot push ahead with that policy to move some asylum seekers to Rwanda, remove them from this country for their asylum process, then you will need a Home Secretary who can deal with the fallout from that. On the other side of the coin, if the Home Secretary is in a position where the Supreme Court has ruled that the UK can push ahead with that migration policy, then again, you'll need a Home Secretary who can handle that process, who can handle the start of flights supposedly leaving the UK with asylum seekers on, removing them to Rwanda. So that absolutely will be factored into Rishi Sunak's decision-making now about who replaces Suella Braverman. The speculation in recent days has been that the UK government may be expecting to lose that case, and therefore Rishi Sunak may well be looking to appoint a new Home Secretary who can deal with the fallout from that, if indeed that is the way that the court decides to go.
All right, well, lots to look out for in the coming, I guess, hours or days perhaps, where the UK's domestic politics is concerned, which has an impact even on its foreign ties, because our External Affairs Minister is set to meet his counterpart, the UK counterpart as well. Thanks a lot for joining us for the time being, Ollie Barrett. And still to come up on DD India News are the 18th edition of the Dubai Air Show kicks off. The Indian Air Force is to showcase its Made in India prowess at this mega show. A Russian Pacific Fleet squadron comes calling at the Chattogram port of Bangladesh for the first time after 50 years.
Turning crisis into opportunity, transforming ideas into action, stories of real change, tales of sustainable solution. This series is going to tell stories of such changemakers. Watch Changemakers on DD India.
Welcome back. You're watching DD India News Hour. I'm Gautam Roy. Sri Lankan President Ranil Wickremesinghe, who's also the island nation's finance minister, presented the annual budget for 2024 in Parliament on Monday. Wickremesinghe has called for upliftment of Sri Lanka and has cast aside political differences for this purpose. The president said Sri Lanka's public debt as a percentage of GDP is expected to be reduced from 128% in 2022 to 95% in 2032 under the debt restructuring supported by the International Monetary Fund. President Wickremesinghe said Sri Lanka has increased its foreign reserves to $3.5 billion. He underlined the need to use taxpayers' money to protect the stability of banks, preventing their possible collapse. Sri Lanka is going for presidential elections next year. Let me take you across now for more on this to Dr. Ahmed Faruki joining us from Colombo live. First of all, happy Diwali to you, Dr. Faruki. What more can you tell us about the latest Lankan budget in terms of how it's still largely an effort to fix all the economic problems it was left with by the Rajapaksas and their ill-thought policies leaning towards China?
Good afternoon, Gautam. Yes, a very happy Diwali to you and the rest of the team back in Delhi. Yes, things had been really bad in Sri Lanka, as we have seen over the last 1.5 years, when the island nation had gone through the economic crisis, primarily because of various circumstances it had faced, like including the 2019 Easter bombings or thereafter the COVID-19 pandemic. Or even the policies which the previous regimes had undertaken. However, you see, this budget has a little bit for everybody. There have been a few measures for the social sector. There have been few measures for the public sector undertaking employees. At the same time, the government also has set its eye with regard to the IMF's bailout plan. The second tranche of which has not yet been released so far. The $330 million of second tranche that was supposed to come could not be released primarily because of certain of the issues that had been plaguing, one of which was not so high revenue incomes from the taxes that the government had imposed. In fact, the president had highlighted this during the budget presentation that of the 3.4 trillion Lankan rupees that they had anticipated to collect from the taxes, only about 2 trillion Lankan rupees had been collected in the first 9 months of this year. And however, he has talked about a few measures to improve the tax revenues through policy changes, as well as bringing about digitization and better administrative strategies. That is on one side. However, at the same time, there is also something with regard to improving the social sector through education and health reforms. And at the same time, we also heard that there are something for the infrastructure development of the island as well. So there is something for everybody is what appears as of now. But the crucial thing is that the debt restructuring discussions are yet to go on. I mean, the biggest bilateral lender, China, is yet to come out and share its debt plan that they have already negotiated, supposedly negotiated with the Sri Lankan government, and come out with the official creditor committee. Once that is sorted out and all the bilateral creditors are on board, then with a comparable treatment of the debt thereabout, then the Sri Lankan government will go ahead with the other debt restructurings, that is with the commercials. So a lot of work still pending in this direction, Gautam.
Okay, let's hope that gets done too, and the people of Sri Lanka benefit from all that is being brought in to ensure that the kind of dire straits Sri Lanka was in, it comes out of it as soon as possible. Now, still to come up on DD India News Hour, India's New Delhi is all set to host the biggest ever international trade fair at the newly redeveloped Pragati Maidan complex. The European Union warns of another genocide spate in Darfur following the 2003 conflict that left thousands dead and over 2 million displaced. And the United States and South Korea update their security pact in face of North Korea's nuclear and missile belligerence.
Turning crisis into opportunity, transforming ideas into action, stories of real change, tales of sustainable solution. This series is going to tell stories of such changemakers. Watch Changemakers on DD India.
Welcome back. You're watching DD India News Hour. I'm Gautam Roy, and before we go any further, another look at our top stories. India's Commerce Minister to attend 2 key trade-related meetings of the IPEF and the APEC, also to interact with eminent business persons, prominent academics during his San Francisco visit. Sri Lankan President Ranil Wickremesinghe presents the island nation's annual budget, says Colombo's economy successfully regained momentum last year. And UK Interior Secretary Suella Braverman has been sacked. UK Prime Minister Rishi Sunak will also undertake a cabinet reshuffle in the coming days. Now, India's capital city of New Delhi is all set to host the biggest ever international trade fair at the newly redeveloped Pragati Maidan complex. Thousands of participants from several countries are likely to visit Delhi for the mega event. DD India's correspondent Dibyendu Mondal reports.
After the successful completion of the G20 summit in September this year, Delhi is once again gearing up to host another mega event at the newly redeveloped Pragati Maidan complex. This time, Delhi is all set to host the biggest ever 42nd edition of the India International Trade Fair. The theme, Vasudhaiva Kutumbakam, United by Trade. Countries from across the world will gather at the national capital to participate at this mega international event. Women entrepreneurs from the SAARC countries will be a key focus of this year's trade fair. SAARC countries like Bangladesh, Sri Lanka, Afghanistan, Maldives, Nepal and Bhutan will also set up pavilions to showcase their best products and businesses to the world. Other countries like Turkey, Qatar, Bahrain will also be major participants at the International Trade Fair. The mega event is scheduled to be held between the 14th and the 27th of November this year. More than 1 million people are expected to visit this international trade fair this year. Spread over 1 lakh square meters, the 14 halls of the swanky Pragati Maidan complex will showcase businesses and innovations from across the world. At home, states like Bihar, Jharkhand and Kerala will be the partner states for this edition of the International Trade Fair, while states like Uttar Pradesh, Delhi, Jammu and Kashmir and Maharashtra will be the focus states. Not only this, visitors and participants will also have an experience of cuisines from across 30 states of India at the mega open food zone at the trade fair. This mega 13-day event in the national capital has already started creating a buzz amongst the business communities from across the world. And the event will further enhance India's image at the world stage. Dibyendu Mondal's report for DD India.
All right, so that's something to look forward to. And now we're also taking you back to our top story, which is all about India's Commerce Minister Piyush Goyal, who's in San Francisco, or rather reaching San Francisco right now to attend 2 key global trade-related meetings. One is the IPEF and the other is the APEC meet, where India is a guest country. Joining us to talk about it is Shubhamoy Bhattacharjee, senior economic journalist. Welcome to DD India and a happy Diwali to you first. Shubhamoy, what can you tell us about the significance of this visit in the context of what's really happening with the global economy these days, and what kind of a bearing can it have for India's place there?
Well, that's an interesting thing, Gautam, and I must say that Diwali is a good time to talk about trade and prosperity, so definitely we're on the right track. Yes, the IPEF, India Indo-Pacific Economic Forum, is a very significant coming together of the countries that are aligned around the Indo-Pacific region. Now, why is that significant? Because these countries are setting up standards, these countries are setting up international conventions on movement of goods and services, and imposed also the issues about trade, for which, as you said, the Union Commerce Minister, Mr. Piyush Goyal, is reaching San Francisco. So there are 4 pillars of IPEF, and among these, the trade issue is one of those on which India correctly had issues and had concerns, and those have been strongly put on board. And this meeting will be a very significant pointer to how India and USA, led by their USTR, Catherine Tai, and others, will be looking at smoothing out the wrinkles in the trade issues between the 2 countries. As you know, India's trade basket is rapidly expanding, and as the fastest growing economies of the world, coming up to be it's already the 5th largest, and we're expecting it to reach something like the 3rd largest by 2030. You would expect that this meeting, therefore, is very significant. Yes,
definitely. And in terms of, you spoke about, the 4 pillars and how India is still to figure out whether it should be part of that trade pillar or not, but there are 3 others as well, and they're quite significant, especially the ones related to climate and to supply chains, not to mention fair government. Now, if India proceeds with agreeing to the 3 and not the one on trade, how would that work out?
Well, that has been India's position so far, that the concerns on trade should not impede the progress on IPEF on the other 3 pillars. And that is how it's been working on. But at the same time, as you would have noticed, India is also now going in for significant foreign trade agreement, free trade agreements with different countries. So India has also been able to work out what has been its major areas that it wants to defend, and how those should be looked at. Remember that India is not the only one which has got concerns on trade. Today, economic nationalism is something that is the pervading standards across the world. And every country is creating bulwarks to ensure that their domestic production comes up to speed and is able to compete globally. So in that context, what India has taken position is actually quite in sync with what is there in the rest of the world. So therefore, as I say, that this particular meeting is rather significant because it allows for these two economies, India and USA, to talk about trade issues as they need to do with as they need to understand with each other, and where they reach and where there are differences. Yes, Gautam.
All right, Shubhamoy. Well, let's hope that there is ample focus on all these things, apart from ensuring that all the countries participating in the two fora benefit from whatever exchanges take place, and the big focus on the Biden-Xi meeting also leads to some positive tidings for the global economy. Thanks a lot for joining us for the time being. Now, the 18th edition of the Dubai Air Show, titled The Future of the Aerospace Industry, begins today at Dubai World Centre. The event, which is the largest to date, hosting over 1,400 exhibitors from 95 countries. And to tell us more about it, we have with us DD India's Vinod Kumar joining us from Dubai Live. Vinod, first of all, very happy Diwali to you. What more can you tell us about the kind of dazzling display, first of all, the Indian Air Force is going to put up in Dubai at the air show?
Hi Gautam, we have two kinds of shows here in the Dubai Air Show. One is the static display team and one is the pavilion. And on top of the static display, we'll be having air shows also. So from India, we have got a contingent of 4 Tejas aircrafts which has come. And they'll be putting their acrobatics today in the evening, 4 p.m. Dubai time. The Indian pavilion here at the Dubai Air Show is just inaugurated, that you can see on my rear. The Indian pavilion is hosted by HAL, and along with HAL we have companies like Mishra Dhatu Nikam Limited, we have Bharat Electronics, we have DRDO, among others. And the latest addition of many new novel technologies that India have brought to this Dubai Air Show is a energy weapon which can shoot down drones. Drone targeted energy weapons which uses laser technology which can pinpoint even the minute parts of the drone, like the battery, like the propeller, or the main engines. And we have here display a TDBEF, carrier-based aircraft, and we have also the Netra models at display here. What you can see behind me here, we have other equipments which are bought from by Netra, by DRDO. And here India is showcasing its tremendous potential as a future naval and air force power. Definitely, we would be seeing the Indian Air Force Tejas display from the evening today, and the soaring team, which comprises of 12 crew helicopters, are also arrived here. So the acrobatics of all these aircrafts which are here will be beginning in the evening. So far, we have only got the static displays right now, and more information will be fed from here.
All right. Now, you already mentioned something in terms of the energy weapon meant to shoot down drones, which perhaps would live up to the theme of the future of the aerospace industry, which is the theme of this air show this time around in Dubai. What more can you tell us that will ensure that it lives up to its theme?
See, the theme of the Dubai Air Show is future of space industry. Here, the country UAE has taken leaps and bounds strides in the space sector. If you can see, the Sultan Al Nayadi had spent 6 months here in the international space station, and this was unprecedented for any Arab country. And as this air show unfolds, we can see a lot of technologies that are on display, which are on the forefront of the atmosphere and the space. Among them, one of them is the technology that is demonstrated by India for laser guided technology, which is for targeting drones. As you know, that this era is not a conventional warfare era. We have seen in Ukraine, we have seen in other parts of the world where drones are effectively used to dismantle huge infrastructure, huge multi-million dollar tanks are destroyed by small drones. So it is very pertinent to note that such small scale weaponry has got a huge impact on this unfolding modern era of warfare. So definitely India's Bharat Electronics have achieved a definite milestone in creating such an energy-directed weapon which can target drones. And definitely we can see in the future that this will have a huge market in the global arena of modern warfare.
Certainly, certainly. Thanks a lot with that for that update, Vinod, for joining us from Dubai. And back home, rescue work is on at full swing to evacuate 40 trapped workers from an under-construction tunnel in Uttarkashi's district of India's Uttarakhand state that collapsed early Sunday morning. A 150-meter portion of a 4.5-kilometer long proposed tunnel to link Silkyara and Dandalgaon on the Brahmakhal-Yamunotri highway in Uttarkashi collapsed around 4 in the morning on Sunday. Officials supervising the rescue operation at the location said that all the trapped workers are safe and rescue teams have established contact with them using wireless sets. Oxygen is also being pumped into the tunnel to ensure the workers have air supply, even food and water are being provided.
अभी जो हमें खबर मिली है कि अंदर सारे के सारे जो हैं सुरक्षित हैं, उनको हमने जो है खाने के कुछ चिप्स और पानी की व्यवस्था उनको दे दी गई है और सब सुरक्षित हैं। हम उम्मीद करते हैं कि आज हम प्रयास करके उनको बाहर निकलने की पूरी कोशिश करेंगे। ये 40 की खबर है, हमारे से कम्युनिकेशन हुआ था तो उन्होंने बताया 40 लोग अंदर हैं, लेकिन सारे के सारे सुरक्षित हैं अभी।
And Uttarakhand State's Chief Minister Pushkar Singh Dhami, who had visited the site to take stock of the on-ground rescue work, assured that the administration and the evacuation teams are making all efforts to rescue stranded workers safely.
उनके सभी जो लोग अंदर हैं, उनके सभी पारिवारिक जनों से भी उनको आश्वस्त करता हूं कि हमारा संपूर्ण प्रयास है कि जल्दी से जल्दी सबको बाहर निकाला जाए। मलबा लगातार नीचे गिर रहा है, इसलिए बहुत काम जो है मैनुअली वहां पर किया जा रहा है। प्रधानमंत्री जी ने पूरी चिंता व्यक्त करी है और हर प्रकार का आश्वासन हमको दिया है। गृह मंत्री जी ने भी सारी टीमें वहां भेजी हैं।
And let's go across to India's Akshay Dongre joining us live for more on this. Akshay, it may be the day after Diwali. Nonetheless, what more can you tell us about the rescue efforts that have been going on to extract these trapped workers from the partially collapsed tunnel safe and sound?
Well, despite Diwali, what we saw in Uttarkashi, as far as the rescue operations were concerned, was that everyone from SDRF teams to NDRF team, everyone was deployed as far as removing the rubble is concerned from this Silkyara tunnel. About a 50-meter section of the tunnel collapsed, and the good news is that a contact has been made with the people who are trapped inside, with the workers who were working inside the tunnel. And as far as the area that collapsed is concerned, is that we are getting information from the officials that about 50 meters of the part of the tunnel had collapsed, and the rescue agencies till today morning were able to remove about 15, or rather clear about 15 meters of area. So about a 13-meter wide tunnel is being made right now inside that collapsed zone to bring out the people who are trapped inside. The good thing is that the authorities could actually send food along with water, and even send oxygen through the pipes that they have been able to send inside through the little openings that they could see. So that is why the authorities are saying right now that the situation is not life-threatening. However, there will be questions that what it means for the entire Char Dham project under which this tunnel was also being built.
Right. Akshay, let's hope that these workers are first brought out safe, and then perhaps work could be carried on further after an assessment of how things stand. Now, thank you for joining us for the time being. Now, the European Union has condemned an escalation in the violence in Sudan's Darfur region and warned against the risk of another genocide after the 2003 conflict that left thousands dead and more than 2 million displaced. There's been a new surge in ethnically driven killings in Sudan's West Darfur as the paramilitary Rapid Support Force took control of the main military base in the region. Clashes broke out between the Sudanese army and the paramilitary RSF in April after weeks of rising tensions between the two sides. Let's now take a look at some of the other updates that are coming in from around the world. U.S. Senator Tim Scott suspended his run for the 2024 Republican presidential election nomination. Scott backed out just about 2 months before the start of voting in Iowa's lead-off caucuses. Scott is the second major candidate to leave the race since the end of October. 5 U.S. Army Special Operations troops died in a refueling mishap with a helicopter over the eastern Mediterranean Sea. Search and rescue operations were launched immediately following the crash. The cause of the training incident is underway, that is currently under investigation. In Spain, tens of thousands of people protested against acting Prime Minister Pedro Sanchez's plans to offer amnesty to Catalan separatists in a bid to win enough support for another term in office. The government secured a deal with Catalan separatist party Junts, which includes passing a contentious law granting amnesty to those convicted over Catalonia's attempt to secede from Spain in 2017. Britain's King Charles and Prime Minister Rishi Sunak led the National Service of Remembrance. Thousands of veterans, army personnel and members of the public came together for a 2-minute silence. And still to come up on DD India News Hour, ace tennis star Novak Djokovic secures a year-end top ranking for a record-extending 8th time. Team India makes it 9-0, a clean sweep in the ICC World Cup group stage encounters. The next match is against New Zealand in one of the semis. And at the Premier League, Chelsea and Manchester City draw 4-4, settling for a point apiece.
Swagato to West Bengal, India's cultural epicenter. West Bengal invites you.
Welcome back. You're watching DD India News Hour. I'm Gautam Roy, and time now to get you all the sporting updates with Deepika.
Thanks and good afternoon, Gautam. First, let's get you the top update that we are tracking for the viewers from the world of tennis. Well, world tennis ace Novak Djokovic has secured year-end top ranking for a record-extending 8th time as he defeated Holger Rune at the ATP Finals. Djokovic tamed Danish debutant Holger Rune with a 7-6, 6-7, 6-3 victory in his opening round-robin match at the ATP Finals to seal the year-end #1 ranking. Djokovic will next face Jannik Sinner on Tuesday. The Serbian's 19th successive victory also ended any chances of Spain's Carlos Alcaraz overtaking him in the rankings this week.
Yeah, it's huge. It means a lot. Obviously, I knew that coming into the tournament here, I needed only one win to clinch the year-end #1, and I really wanted that to happen already tonight. I didn't want to prolong, in a way, the situation, and complicate in a way this particular goal. So I'm really glad that I managed to do that tonight.
Well, on to cricket now. India defeated Netherlands at M. Chinnaswamy Stadium in Bengaluru in their last league match, ensuring a 9-0 clean sweep in group stage encounters. Chasing a Mehmet's 411-run target, the Dutch batsman could only manage to reach 250 runs in 47.5 overs. For Team Netherlands, Teja Nidamanuru scored 54 runs while Suprant scored 45. Earlier, opting to bat first, India were off to a great start with Rohit Sharma and Shubman Gill smashing half-centuries. Virat Kohli followed with a 51-run knock. Shreyas Iyer and KL Rahul then stitched a 208-run partnership for the fourth wicket, taking the men in blue to 410 runs for the loss of 4 wickets, which is their highest total in this edition of Cricket World Cup so far. Shreyas Iyer smashed an unbeaten 128, while KL Rahul scored 102. For Team Netherlands, Bastille took 2 wickets. Now, after this victory, India's Prime Minister Narendra Modi congratulated the team. He wrote on X, and I quote him, "Congratulations to Team India on their fantastic victory against the Netherlands. Such an impressive display of skill and teamwork. Best wishes for the semis. India is elated," unquote. On to soccer now. Chelsea's stunning 4-4 draw with Premier League champions Manchester City sent a resounding signal that the new-look side are finally finding mojo after a faltering start to the season. The Blues came from behind 3 times at Stamford Bridge, and their never-say-die spirit was rewarded. The last gasp leveller was nothing less than the hosts deserved from a game that saw City take the lead via an Erling Haaland penalty before Chelsea went by 2-1, up only for Manuel Akanji to make it 2-2 all before half-time. Haaland restored City's lead a minute into the second half, but 20 minutes later, Nicholas Jackson bounced to make it 3-3. Rodri seemed to have won all 3 points for Man City with a deflected 86th minute shot before Palmer's late penalty. Stamford Bridge erupted in celebration under a downpour at the final whistle, even if the point left for the Londoners in the 10th place in the table. And Mohamed Salah reached another milestone as Team Liverpool went second in the Premier League with a 3-0 victory over Brentford. Mohamed Salah scored in each half of Liverpool's victory to reach 200 goals in English football. He also became the first player in their history to score in each of their first 6 home league games of a season. Now the club climbed over Tottenham Hotspur and Arsenal in the points table with 27 points after 12 games in hand, while Aston Villa beat Fulham by 3-1 to match a 40-year-old club record of 13 straight home league victories. Villa Park has become a fortress under Unai Emery, as his side, along with Liverpool and Man City, are the only teams to have won all their home matches so far at this Premier League season. So that was a quick wrap from the world of sports. Back to Gautam.
Thanks a lot, Deepika. Now, winter has transformed the city's riverside view in northeast China, with the first frost of the year bringing a captivating fairy tale of ice and snow. Take a look at it, enjoy, and that's all we have for this edition of DD India News Hour. But let us know your thoughts on the news of the day. You can connect with us on Facebook, X, formerly Twitter, and Instagram. We'll be back with more news and updates as they break right here on DD India. I'm Gautam Roy, from all of us here in Delhi. Thanks for watching the show.